All right, good afternoon. My name is Mike Benner. I'm the Public Information Manager here at the Portland Police Bureau. We appreciate everyone coming this afternoon. We have a number of speakers here to address the vandalism that we've been seeing over the last week or so. We'll be starting things off with Portland Police Chief Bob Day. Following the chief will be Doug Olson, Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Portland Field Office. U.S. Attorney here in Oregon, Natalie White, and then Mayor Ted Wheeler. With that, Chief.
Thanks, Mike. Excuse me, good afternoon. So, purpose of getting together today, we're not speaking directly about individual groups, we're not speaking directly about individual cases, but we are going to talk about behavior. And we had some of this conversation last week. It was important for me to be able to demonstrate with other partners that are in this conversation that we want to continue to emphasize the level of unacceptability we have for violent behavior. It's important that people be able to express their First Amendment rights, and we saw some of that done very well last week, and we've also seen some examples of that I want to highlight that are concerning. A couple of things we're going to show you are available off of social media, but I think it's important to demonstrate the boldness that we're seeing with some of the violence in our city and the importance that it doesn't go unaddressed. On May Day, you might be aware that we had a protest event that evening, or a march from the South Park blocks, and they went down Broadway, and there were several businesses that were damaged. At that time that march stepped off, there was a social media release that demonstrated this flyer, which we'll make available to you. And this was put out on social media, and you can see the call to action by the folks that put this out. And the lines there that kind of jump out at me, one of it is, take whatever autonomous action feels good. They actually list businesses to attack. Down there's a line about 1,000 points, find a location on list and bring it to the block's attention. And in fact, 2 or 3 of the businesses that are on this list were attacked. This was at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. People were in those businesses. I find this to be very troubling. The bold statement of violence, and it's not behavior that is conducive with First Amendment speech. This is just simple criminal activity that needs to be addressed. I'm also want to highlight the fact that it's kind of cartoonish, but there's a couple of examples of explosives on there, and at one of the local establishments we did find commercial grade firework left next to the building. We have a photo of that, Marshall. Could have definitely caused significant harm to someone. We were able to secure that and have our disposal unit take care of it. But the intentionality and the boldness of this will not be tolerated as we continue to do our best to work with everybody in this community to make sure that we all stay safe. Excuse me. That evening we also had the fires at the training division, as we already covered last week. But disturbingly, we had another claim on social media taking responsibility, and I don't know, I can't say to you at this moment who's responsible for what. As I said, we're not going to get into the nuts and bolts of the investigations, but I want you to see this post on social media that taking credit for this action. And particularly disappointing is the call to action in the bullet points at the bottom. Marshall, if you could go to the one that's just got the post. Down there, if you read down at the bottom there where it says number 4 in particular says, fight, defend your camps. If the frat bros come, smash their frat house windows. If the Zionist settlers come, throw fireworks at them. If the cops come, don't just resist arrest, fight them. They will hate you and beat you if you're peaceful or violent, and it is time to be violent. And ladies and gentlemen, that should concern all of us, this type of messaging. And it really is a matter of behavior. It is a matter of expectations. I'm grateful for the support we had last week with a number of partners. We worked closely with the Oregon State Police, with Portland State University Police Department, and we had a lot of peaceful demonstrations last week. So nothing to be said today is to convey this cloud, or for me to say that every protest or every march or every demonstration falls into these categories. But I did want to highlight the significance of some of these statements and some of these challenges that we're facing, and also highlight some of the things that PPB is doing to address them. Obviously, there's a series of ongoing investigations. We're working closely with all available resources and all available partners to be able to bring some of these cases to resolution. We're also adjusting our response in our operations branch, making sure that we're as available and as agile as possible as we see various events pop up across the city. We want to be more responsive, more engaged, have a stronger police presence as we go forward during this time of year as we lead up into the election cycle. We're also trained and have dialogue officers available that we desperately want to be able to reach out to our activist community, to anybody who wants to engage in First Amendment, and we are happy to liaison with them and be available to coordinate these events so they can be done safely for everyone, for all of the community. You're aware that we're reinstating our rapid response team. Training is beginning this month. We hope to have those resources back online in a short period of time, as well as the rollout of body-worn cameras this summer is going to also be able to help capture information to maybe provide safer resolutions. And then our ongoing partnerships with the county, with the state, with our federal partners, with our community liaisons, all with the intent to minimize harm, all with the intent to try and make sure that people can, once again, express their First Amendment rights, but do so in a way that's safe for everyone. I want to close just briefly with a quote from Eric Hoffer's book, True Believer. He says, "Hatred is the most accessible and comprehensible of all the unifying agents. Mass movements can rise and spread without belief in God, but never without a belief in a devil." I believe that these social media posts and some of these actions we're seeing around anger and hatred are crippling our city. And we need to have a conversation about how to heal. Certainly there's plenty of injustice. Certainly there are things to be angry about. I understand that. But we cannot tolerate the level of violence, vandalism, and personal attacks that we're seeing on individuals at the same time that we're trying to facilitate our First Amendment rights of free speech that we hold so dearly. I just wanted to take a minute and thank the folks behind me, Special Agent in Charge Doug Olson, U.S. Attorney Natalie Wright, the mayor's support, and of course our fellow law enforcement partners in the Oregon State Police. And I'll turn it over to Special Agent in Charge. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon. As you know, the FBI works shoulder to shoulder with our law enforcement partners to keep our communities and neighborhoods safe. Over the last few days, as the Chief mentioned, the city has seen a concerning uptick in violence, people breaking windows and other destructive activity. This kind of destructive behavior not only puts a strain on law enforcement, but it creates life safety issues for the communities and neighborhoods that we serve. Let me be clear, the FBI respects and supports the rights of individuals to peacefully exercise their First Amendment rights, but there is no tolerance when instigators exploit legitimate peaceful protests and violate federal law through violence or other criminal activity. The FBI's model is to work together with our state and local enforcement partners to maximize impact in the communities, and that's what we're doing here today. The FBI will support our local partners as needed to keep our communities safe. We ask the public, if you have witnessed unlawful violent actions, we urge you to contact your law enforcement. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chief, for inviting the U.S. Attorney's Office here today. I'll make this really brief. I want to echo the sentiment of FBI Special Agent in Charge, but I really just want to focus on our partnership. I think it's really important to focus on the partnership that we have throughout our law enforcement communities and throughout our public service communities. The United States Attorney's Office, along with our federal partners and also our state and local and tribal partners, we work side by side with the Portland Police every day. We have cases, both big and small, where we all share this common mission, and that's to keep Oregon a safe, beautiful place to live. We work together to protect the civil rights of all Oregonians. We work together to uphold the rule of law. and we all do this to keep the community safe. The attorneys and the staff at the U.S. Attorney's Office, just like our law enforcement partners and the agents who work these cases, this is our home. We care deeply about this city and about the people of Oregon. The U.S. Attorney's Office has been a longtime partner with Portland Police and Oregon State Police and several of our other local community offices and law enforcement partners. And it doesn't matter whether we're combating fentanyl or whether we're fighting child exploitation, gun violence, violence of any kind, including hate crime. So today we wanted to say thank you to Chief Day for his longtime partnership and for your public service, and let them know that U.S. Attorney's Office will continue to support the Portland Police and the City of Portland in their daily mission to keep our city safe and to keep the people of Oregon safe. Thank you.
Great. First of all, I want to say how appreciative I am to be able to stand here with the U.S. Attorney, the Special Agent in Charge, the Police Chief. I want to thank the State Police for their continued and really exceptional partnership. I'm here today to stand in solidarity with law enforcement and to express my unequivocal support for the full accountability for those who seek to engage in either acts of criminal destruction or violence in our city. We've said it time and time again, it cannot be said enough, that we support people's First Amendment rights, but when people engage in acts of vandalism and violence, that is a crime. And we will hold people accountable because it is unacceptable behavior. The destruction we saw last week, including the arson at the PPB facility, is unacceptable criminal conduct. The ugliness of this behavior is only highlighted by the unconscionable act, in my opinion, of hijacking the First Amendment rights of people who are protesting peacefully, and even the names of others as a guise for senseless vandalism. Whether smashing a business window or terrorizing ordinary people just because they are on site doing their jobs, your behavior shows the community who you are and what you stand for. The community and its leadership are united. That's the one message I really hope comes out of this press conference today. We don't find this behavior acceptable, nor are we going to tolerate it. I want to thank our many law enforcement allies who have demonstrated strong support and partnership in holding people accountable for criminal behavior. I also want to thank my colleagues on the City Council, the County Chair, and the Governor for joining me in speaking out and condemning criminal acts. We all stand together, unified and fully committed to supporting safety and vibrancy in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We have some time for some Q&A, so we just ask that you state your name and your affiliation and who you'd like to speak with. And I do understand that there could be some questions also about the camping ban that just passed, and the mayor, I understand, has agreed to stick around afterwards and answer some of those questions. So if we can stay on topic for this portion, I appreciate it. Kyle, go ahead.
Chief Kyle Motion, KGW. Can you provide any type of update on the Arson investigation at the Portland Police Training Facility? And also, have you found any connection between what happened there and the demonstration at the Portland State campus?
Well, Kyle, I can't provide an update because I don't have the update to provide for you. You know, I intentionally try and make sure that our investigators are given the space to be able to do their job effectively, and that also allows me to honestly answer you and say I don't have an update on it. But just know that we're working closely and looking at all incidents, both as individuals and then collective, right? I really don't want to lump anyone in together with any one particular group, because even taking this stuff off of social media, you know, I don't know for a fact who said what and who did what. It's just out there. It's a call to action. And then we see the action happen in the demonstration on May 1st, or we see the cars burned. So it is a tricky, sort of complex environment we're working in. I'm not naive to the fact that there may be some connections. But my direction is to been asked to all the investigators to look at these as individual acts And then, of course, we'll cooperate and communicate and see if there's any connection. But right now, I don't have any of that.
Chief Dave, do you have an update though on the actual investigation? Just the connection side, you can tell us about the work that you guys have done to identify people?
Not right now. No, I don't have anything new to report on that.
Do you have an update on the protesters that you were trying to identify? Have any additional been identified? Are they facing charges? Can you give some update on that, please?
I know that we're still actively looking for folks. We put flyers out. I don't know if we made any arrests specific to those. 27 out of 31 folks that we took into custody last Thursday were charged by the district attorney's office. So I'm appreciative of that, and those cases are moving forward. And, you know, we continue to be diligent at all these events, looking for people who may or may not have been associated to the events at PSU.
And then I know you're not, looking at this violence into one specific group, but both of these social media posts reference a group. One references Antifa and the other references Rachel Corrios Brigade. As we get into a contentious election year, I'm just wondering what local and federal authorities are doing, to prepare for possible additional violence like this.
Right. So I can tell you that the Portland Police Bureau is working very intentionally with all of our law enforcement partners, both the ones that are standing behind me and those in the region. I'm really encouraged by the support we've had, speaking with Gresham, the Port, Multnomah County Sheriff, et cetera. And so, as I mentioned, then the other things that we're standing up in regards to our rapid response team and just our own mobility. I just want to stress to folks that we are really making an effort to evaluate our tactics, our approaches, staying within our policy, staying within the training and the guidelines expected of us. But we're gonna rely on everyone. This is gonna take all of us as a community as well as the criminal justice system to make sure we have a really safe election season.
Chief, Fedor was talking with the Oregonian. So just to make sure I understand, so essentially the Bureau has established that there is a pattern or a potential pattern based on those two calls for, well, the one call for action and then the one description of a preemptive call for action. Is that right?
I would not call that a pattern. I don't want to suggest it's a pattern. Once again, I think they're individual events. But what caught my attention, and the reason that I'm highlighting this, is because of the direct nature of it associated with the violent acts that we saw, right? That flyer comes out on May Day and it lists those businesses. That's one thing. But then when, you turn around and businesses that were on the flyer were actually attacked, and there is that commercial grade firework left next to the building. People are in those buildings. I mean, that was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. People were in that Starbucks, et cetera. I just felt like it was important for us to recognize some of the significance of the violence, and that's what we're focusing on. That's what we're paying attention to. We want people, and the mayor has said this, I don't know how many times, we want people to be able to express their First Amendment rights, to be able to march, protest, demonstrate. There's a lot of great reasons to do that, but we cannot have that kind of behavior that we saw demonstrated last week.
Can you elaborate though on how the foundation for the assertion that this is something new, right? That this is a new development in the city, and as you said, it's
Right.
crippling the city.
Right. Well, for the last several years, we've had a series of protests and demonstrations post-2021 that, once again, sort of went off without a hitch. People gathered, people expressed their views, but we have seen an uptick in the last few weeks of some of those messages being co-opted or being stolen by, bad actors. I would encourage those that, want to organize events, and we have a lot of passionate people in our community that organize these type of events. They can reach out to us. We can help give them guidance and direction to, some tools or some ideas or some thoughts about how not to let their message get lost with people who are intent on violent behavior. So, we have a long election season ahead of us. There's obviously going to be a lot of energy around it, and I'm hopeful that we can really demonstrate to the country that Portland knows how to do this and do this right.
Heather Roberts with the Oregon Radio News Network. The incident at PSU, not unique to Oregon. We saw similar campus takeovers across the country. How much coordination is happening locally with partners in other states to try and see if the other violent acts that you described, the arsons, the marches, if there's any connection with groups elsewhere?
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of communication going on among police departments across the country. I'm a member of the Major City Chiefs Association as well as the Police Executive Research Forum, both large national organizations that are putting information out and soliciting input from others. I will say, I do want to take a moment and be proud of the fact that I do think last week was a little bit unique. You know, we had the president of Portland State, the district attorney, the mayor and I standing here for a live press conference at 11 o'clock on Monday night, really showing a unified approach to this. And you haven't seen that around the country, at least I haven't. You know, maybe that's happening in other places. But the message, and I want to echo one of the mayor's comments, I mean, we are, as a leadership in the state and in the city and in the county, both in law enforcement and in the electeds, really passionate about wanting to make sure that we can have a safe community. And I'm grateful for that support. I feel that. And I'm messaging that to my peers across the country and throughout the Northwest, that I think that's a strategy that can be very effective. And I think it showed last week with the, you know, reduced amount of violence that we did have when we ended up taking action, and the success that we're having bring that to a safe resolution.
Chief, I was just wondering, on a chronology question, at 11 p.m. when you had your press conference that Monday, roughly what time do you think that the takeover of the library occurred? So I've always been a little confused on that chronology. You were there at 11 saying that.
I think that the takeover happened earlier on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I think, but I wouldn't know. I'd have to ask one of the investigators. I don't have a time on that. Yeah, Mike can get that information. Yeah, Mike can get that information. Yeah.
Last week, we saw state police come in to assist with the situation. You know, since we saw a protest get out of hand last week, I'm wondering if you have an update on the public order team.
Yes, so we had, somewhere north of 70 or so odd members put in for the team, which I was very encouraged to see their interest. We had a vetting process. We've identified the core members of the team. I believe the number's 40. Mike can get to the specifics, but I believe the number's 40. And as I said, they'll begin training this month. We're working in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training and the Oregon State Police to get people up to speed, and we're in the acquisition process. We've got great support from council to get the equipment we need and the funding we need to be able to get the training off the ground, and I'm really hopeful and optimistic about where that's going at this time.
And then just a follow-up, how equipped was Portland Police to handle the protest last week without this team? And is the goal of this team to eliminate the need for state police to come in and aid?
Well, I'm never going to turn down an opportunity from state police to come in and support. I'm very gracious for their partnership. They're just such an excellent professional organization. The purpose of the public order team, the rapid response team, is that we are able to more safely manage events because we have a group of officers that train together. They have the right equipment. You know, on a day-to-day basis, when you have the event on May 1st, for example, that resulted in the damage on Broadway, you know, those officers are responding from their patrol vehicles, which is not designed necessarily specific for crowds. And so that's why I mentioned earlier, really working closely with our operations team to figure out how we can be more nimble, how we can put our officers in the best position to be safe, but also to be able to interdict the behavior. There's a huge amount of risk involved, particularly when you can see for the call for the level of violence and the acting out that we're seeing the behavior. So it's a real balancing act, but we're working on it.
When will those officers be trained up?
Well, I think the rapid response team is training this month. And then we have ongoing training, and we've done training over the last couple of years around mobile field force and, you know, patrol response and so forth. So our training's ongoing. Yes.
Do you know how many of the 40 vetted officers that are part of this new public order team were also part of that former rapid response team that walked off the job?
I don't have that number handy. I mean, once again, you can send Mike an email about that. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Going back to those social media posts, are you able to share any metrics on those just so I can get a better idea of how widely they're seen, the number of likes, views, shares, something like that?
Wow, you know what? I don't even know how to do metrics on my own social media, so I'm not the right guy to ask. I think that's a good question, but I don't know. Sorry, I can't help you out with that. Well, you know, once again, I defer everything to Mike. Mike's like, you know, he's like the go-to guy. So if those exist, he can help you find them. Thanks.
Couple more
A
questions.
couple-
One of those posts identified 10 specific businesses. So what do you do from a law enforcement standpoint with that information?
Right.
Do you notify those businesses? Do you station officers outside of those businesses in anticipation of possible violence?
Yeah, so in this particular case, unfortunately, we were just caught shorthanded. That social media post went out the moment the march started, and it was over in 20 minutes. I mean, it was literally that fast, right? So, but we have a very close working relationship with the chamber and working with downtown businesses. I followed up with numerous phone calls on Thursday. Unfortunately, could pretty much just apologize. I couldn't fix anything at the moment, but also, you know, developing those contacts and those relationships with those businesses so we can be best positioned. And, you know, tactically, it's going to vary depending on the resources and the time we have to plan. But, you know, providing warning, providing information, it's not something that we keep to ourselves. We want to get it out there if we think there's going to be something so that the businesses can prepare. And this was something that was developed even back in 2020. So we have, we have a little bit of a model, but, you know, in terms of actually, you know, the position of officers and the tactical approach, every situation is going to be different depending on the threat level.
But just to follow up, I mean, it kind of leads to the broader question, what can actually be done to deter this type of criminal activity?
Right.
It's one thing to stand united, it's one thing to say we, you know, detest this type of behavior, but
Right.
ultimately, what's going to deter it? from
Yeah,
your perspective?
yeah. Well, deter it, I think, is two things. One, we need to be able to interrupt it. So we need to be able to respond in real time to interrupt it when it's happening. And then there needs to be arrests and accountability. A lot of these people, we know from experience, and this isn't just true for people that are violently protest, but, you know, there's a degree of anonymity that goes with criminal behavior. You know, most people don't want to be, quote, caught. And so if we can have a more robust response and take people into custody and then, you know, use that tool as a way to leverage more information, learn about other people. I mean, you know, once we get people into custody, we can identify them. We see them here, we can see them here, we can follow up, get them on probation. Those kind of things work in this arena because they lose that anonymity. So, you know, that's really the goal. The other part of it, though, I think, is around, you know, collaborating with our business partners and, you know, as a society, as a community, you know, continuing to say, hey, we're not going to stand for this. This is not Portland. This doesn't represent who we are. So when we see this type of behavior, I'm not asking for community members to intervene, but, you know, to be aware. And if they have information, you already heard the folks behind me, if they have information, if people know people that are engaging in this behavior, let us know so that we can follow up and take appropriate action. So it's kind of a twofold approach.
Fedor, last question.
So a question for the special agent in charge. So what is the FBI's role here, and like at what point does this become not just a local agency investigation? What are the charges that the federal government would be potentially interested here? Like what is your involvement essentially? And is any of that to do with the potentially allegedly organized nature of some of these activities?
Yeah, well, I can't comment on any specific events or investigations, but I would just say, like, the FBI will seek to support our local, state, federal partners with any resources we have available under the law, right? So it's like, so if we are able to help them out to make the communities safer, then that's what we're going to apply. And each situation looks a little bit different, but I can't comment on anything that's ongoing with the particular stuff that we're talking about today.
Okay, so you can't comment on whether the FBI is doing an investigation?
No, I cannot.
The FBI is here and the U.S. Attorney is here, but you can't comment on.
Well, I mean, I invited him. I literally invited him simply because, you know, I wanted to be able to communicate. Sorry, Doug, but, I mean, you know, I literally invited him because simply this was last week. I mean, we are in this together, folks, and we are trying to demonstrate that on our end, both an openness and a willingness to work with community, to support community, but also sending a message, you know, across the board that all resources are being brought to bear to make sure that we have a safe election season.
Yeah, and I would just add, obviously, we're aware of everything that happened during the last week, and we've been in constant communication with, like, our partners, but when you start talking about specific cases, that brings up issues, so, thank you.
Sorry.
All right, thank you. I do want to circle back to the fires for a moment. I understand and that there could be frustration on your part that we're not up here sharing information, but it would be incredibly irresponsible to do so, and it would jeopardize this investigation. My team connected with the lead detective a short time ago, right before this press event, and this is an active, very active investigation. We are following up on every lead, but we are also asking for the community's help. Somebody knows something about those fires, and they need to come forward, and tips can be made anonymously through Crime Stoppers. And I think everyone in this room is familiar with Crime Stoppers. There's a $2,500 reward available to anyone who provides the information that leads to an arrest and a conviction. But rest assured that this is a very open and active investigation, and we are following up on leads. Thank you for being here. The mayor will stick around for a few minutes to address any camping ban questions you have. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
It's good to see you.
Really, thank you very much. Thank you, nice to see you.
Thank you.
I will not abuse my text privilege.
No, you can abuse them anytime you want.
You guys are doing a great job. You have just the highest praise for my office.
Great, great.
Nice, chief. Thank you.